With Mat Fraser calling it quits, Pat Vellner may be next in line for the title of Fittest on Earth. Find out what the three-time podium finisher has to say about that and how he's feeling heading into the 2021 season. All right, let's bring in the man who has finished on the CrossFit Games podium 3 times in his career. He is Pat Vellner. Pat, thanks so much for being here. How you doing?
Doing great, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Of course. The big news that happened this past week, obviously, is that Mat Fraser has retired. You've competed against him probably more than any other athlete out there. What do you remember most about the times when you lined up against him?
It's always fun. Like, you know it's going to be a challenge, and you kind of know he's the guy to beat no matter what the event is. So, I always really enjoyed those opportunities to line up next to him and just sort of test your mettle, right? Back in the regionals days, it was a really good chance for me to see where I was at and what needed to be better before we went to the games. And then obviously in the more recent seasons with the sanctional structure, we didn't have that same setup. But I always really enjoyed it. And I feel like there was like an extra little bit of intensity and an extra little bit on the line whenever you knew he was on the floor.
Last time we saw you compete was in 2020 at stage 1 of the CrossFit Games, and you were dealing with what was a pretty serious groin injury at the time. How are you feeling now as you get set for the 2021 season?
Yeah, good. Things are coming around. I think there's still, a little bit of time before the Open, and the way that I've sort of digested this season structure is I'm not putting too much pressure on those early stages, and I want to just make sure that I can show up as healthy as I can and be ready to go and execute there, and then really start to turn the volume up when it gets to quarterfinals, semifinals time. So I think that there's still a lot of work to be done, and I'm still trying to get my body to cooperate a little bit, but I still have time, so it's good.
You mentioned the semifinals, and we now know what that is going to look like now that we have sort of a map of the season and the way it lays out. From an athlete's perspective, what does that do for you knowing exactly how everything is scheduled as far as your preparation and training is concerned?
I think whenever you have a plan, or you can make a solid plan because you have a roadmap of what's going to happen, it helps you to more accurately prepare and be a little more precise in your periodization and stuff like that. It also just keeps you mentally in it. You're like, you know exactly what you're lining up for, and so it's easy to stay focused on the task at hand. I know right now, obviously, the way the semifinals shake out for the individuals, it depends a little bit on where you live, right? So in North America, we've got, I think, 4 different semifinals, and they're probably going to run on 4 different weekends. So right now, we can narrow the window to a month, but it's still not exactly dialed in. But any information you can have is helpful.
With Mat Fraser now out, your name is one that comes up a lot when people talk about men who might be able to win the CrossFit Games this year. What, if any, kind of additional pressure does that put on you going into this season?
I know I've been hearing that a lot from the internet these days. I think that you hear the noise, of course, but I don't think it changes a lot. If you're training any year to compete at the games, I've been training to try to win it for years, and the fact that he's not there isn't going to make me work harder in training in any way. I think that I've still got to continue to do the same things that I've been doing and trying to improve in the areas that I need to improve. There's a vacuum there for sure, and I think it's impossible not to recognize that. So I think it's going to make for a very cool year, because those battles are just going to be closer. Like, there's no sugarcoating the fact that Matt was leaps and bounds ahead of everyone, right? So try as you might, a lot of times you were showing up for second, and I think that now everybody kind of can feel the realism of that gold medal. So I think that for sure I feel a little bit of that, but I'm not the only one, and I think that it's important to not get ahead of myself. It's February. Like, if I see Matt retire and then I bury myself right now for the next 2 months, what does that mean in July, August, right? So I think it's important to still stick to the plan and do the things that have worked for a career, right? I've had a lot of success in competition, and it's because I tend to prepare intelligently, so I need to not deviate from that plan.
Before we even get to that point, though, we have to get through the Open, and you've obviously competed in the Open with the goal of getting to the games, and you've experienced it in Open announcements and in affiliates. But what is your favorite part about the Open?
The last workout. Yeah, it's interesting. The open is fine. It's tough for the top end competitors. I love to see the gyms, kind of everybody in your gym come and be competitors for a small period of time. Because we experience that all the time, and we're really used to thinking that way. And like, when I see a workout, I analyze it and I try to figure out where the sticking points are. How do you win this? Like, what reps are more valuable than others, like, etc. And normal people just don't think like that. So I think it's fun to see everybody kind of get involved in that way. And when I'm at the gym here, people kind of ask you for little tips or what you would do or what they should do. And so it's fun to see everybody kind of get competitive for a little bit, because, I think as people, we have a little bit of a competitive nature in us somewhere. So it really does bring that out, whether it's just with the person right next to you or whether it's, on a worldwide leaderboard. So for me personally, like, yeah, the open kind of sucks. And whenever you have to race invisible opponents, it's really hard, right? You've got to really dig deep, because you never know. You got to picture somebody right in front of you every time. And that's really challenging for a lot of different reasons. It hurts and it's mentally exhausting. So I'm not sad about only 3 weeks of the open, but I think the coolest part of it is just seeing everybody be competitors.
Pat, we really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Glad you're feeling better and looking forward to watching you compete in 2021.
I can't wait. Ready to get to it.
Remember, the Open starts on March 11th, and if you want to sign up, head to games.crossfit.com.